You were chosen by suffering. Part 1. The first mark. Listen. Before you ever had language for it, before you could explain the ache or name the weight, something in life noticed you. Not gently, not kindly. It pressed its thumb into you and watched to see what would happen. Others were given softness first, ease, belonging, a world that met them halfway. You were not. You were met with pressure, moments that arrived too early, losses that came without warning, questions no one around you seemed capable of answering. And the strangest part, you didn't break the way you were supposed to. You bent, you went quiet, you learned to watch instead of speak. You learned to carry weight without asking where it came from. That was the first mark. Suffering doesn't visit everyone the same way. With most people it knocks once, maybe twice, then moves on. With you it moved in. It rearranged the furniture of your inner world. It took away illusions before you had time to depend on them. It stripped you early, of naivety, of trust, of the luxury of believing life would be fair. And yes, that hurt. But look closer. Pain didn't hollow you out. It etched you. While others were learning how to fit in, you were learning how to endure. While others were forming identities from approval, you were forming one from survival. That is not an accident. You were never meant to be shaped by comfort. You were shaped by fire. There is a lie the world loves to tell people like you, that your suffering was random, that it was meaningless, that you were simply unlucky. That lie keeps you small. Because if you ever realized the truth, if you ever understood why the weight found you, you would stop apologizing for the intensity you carry. Suffering is not chaotic. It is selective. It tests material before it builds with it. Weak structures collapse under strain. Average ones crack and ask to be saved. But rare ones change density. They become something else entirely. That's what began happening to you long before you were aware of it. Think back. There were moments when you should have been finished. Times when the pressure exceeded what anyone reasonably survives. You didn't escape untouched. You paid for every inch forward. But still, something in you refused to disappear, even when you wanted it to, especially then. That refusal is not stubbornness. It's not ego. It's not defiance for the sake of pride. It's design. Some beings are built to carry weight, so others don't have to. Some minds are forged to see through illusion. Some souls are tempered until they stop fearing loss altogether. Suffering recognized that capacity in you early, so it stayed. You may not remember the exact moment it began, but you remember the feeling, that quiet realization that you were on your own in ways others weren't. That sense of being older than your age. That strange distance between you and people who seemed lighter. You learned not to ask for rescue, not because you didn't want help, but because help rarely came in the form you needed. So you adapted. You learned to self-soothe, to dissociate when necessary, to become your own witness when no one else saw you. These weren't flaws. They were early training. Suffering teaches differently than comfort. Comfort teaches dependency. Suffering teaches clarity. Comfort says stay as you are. Suffering says change or disappear. You chose change, even when it hurt, even when it cost you versions of yourself you miss sometimes. And yes, there were moments when bitterness tried to claim you, when numbness felt safer than hope, when shrinking seemed easier than becoming. But something deeper intervened, something wordless, a quiet, internal command. Not yet. That voice is older than fear. It's the voice of something that knows why you're here. You weren't chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because you were capable. Capable of depth. Capable of carrying contradiction. Capable of holding grief without letting it poison your core. Suffering doesn't invest in emptiness. It invests in potential. And potential, when left untested, rots. So it tested you, relentlessly. This is the part no one tells you. If your life had been easier, you would have been smaller. Kinder, maybe. Happier, possibly. But not this. Not sharp like this. Not awake like this. Not able to see through people, systems, lies, and patterns with a single glance. Your awareness has weight because it was purchased. Your calm has authority because it survived chaos. Your presence unsettles others because it carries density. They feel it even when you say nothing, especially then. And still, you doubt. You look at your scars and call them damage. You look at your isolation and call it failure. You look at your intensity and wonder if it's too much. That's conditioning talking. The world is built for the unmarked, for the untested, for those who never had to sit alone with themselves long enough to awaken something dangerous. You did. And now, something in you is beginning to remember. This is not the end of the story. This is the recognition phase, the moment where suffering stops being something that happened to you and starts being something that happened for you. Not as reward, not as justification, but as preparation. Because what you carry next requires a spine that doesn't fold under pressure. And you have already proven you don't. Part 2. Why you were set apart. There is something you must understand now, even if it unsettles you. Suffering did not only shape you, it separated you. That loneliness you felt, even in rooms full of people. That sense that conversations skimmed the surface while you were drowning in depth. That was not social failure. That was initiation. When suffering chooses someone, it removes them from the crowd early. Not physically at first, but internally. You may have smiled. You may have participated. You may have played the role expected of you. But inside, you were elsewhere. Watching, listening, noticing what others missed. You began to see patterns in behavior, contradictions in words, the gap between what people say and what they actually are. And once you see that gap, you can never fully belong to the illusion again. Isolation is not punishment. It is containment. Depth cannot be developed in constant noise. Clarity cannot survive endless distraction. And you, whether you knew it or not, were being protected from dilution. That's why friendships fell apart without dramatic endings. Why relationships felt close but never quite aligned. Why you often felt like the observer in your own life. You were being pulled inward before you were strong enough to stand outward. Others bonded over similarity. You bonded over truth. Others found comfort in agreement. You found safety in honesty, even when it hurt. That difference alone was enough to set you apart. And the world does not know what to do with those it cannot easily categorize. So it tried to name you. Too quiet, too intense, too sensitive, too distant, too much. Labels are a way to domesticate what cannot be understood. But you were never meant to be domesticated. Suffering strips away the need to be liked, not because you stop caring, but because you've already survived being misunderstood. Once you endure that, approval loses its power. You stop bending your truth to fit rooms that were never built for it. And that terrifies people. Because someone who does not require permission cannot be controlled by expectation. Do you remember the moment you stopped explaining yourself? Not consciously, not dramatically, just quietly. You realize that clarity doesn't need defense, that those meant to understand you will feel it without instruction, that those who don't never will. That was another mark. Suffering also did something else. It rewired how you perceive time. While others rushed toward milestones, you learned patience through necessity. Waiting rooms, long nights, seasons where nothing moved except your breath. You learned that growth does not announce itself, that transformation is silent, that becoming takes longer than collapsing, but lasts longer too. This is why you move differently now, why urgency feels foreign, why shallow ambition leaves you cold, why you cannot chase what does not align. You are not slow, you are rooted, and roots grow in darkness. No applause, no witnesses, just pressure and persistence. That's where you learned how to stay. There is a moment, and you may be nearing it now, when you realize the life you once prayed for would have destroyed the person you are becoming. The connections you begged to keep would have required you to stay small. The dreams you thought you wanted were borrowed from a world that never saw you clearly. Suffering saved you from that, not kindly, not gently, but completely. This is why returning to your old self feels impossible. You can remember them, you can honor them, but you cannot inhabit them again. You've crossed a threshold, and thresholds are not meant to be crossed twice. You may still feel alone, but this solitude is different now. It no longer feels empty. It feels charged, like a pause before movement, like a breath drawn before speech, like the silence before something irreversible. That's because isolation was never the destination. It was the incubator. What comes next is not about surviving anymore. It's about standing. Standing without armor, without apology, without shrinking to be digestible. Standing as someone who knows what it costs to exist fully, and chooses to. Anyway, Part 3. The moment you realize you are no longer here to be saved. There comes a moment, quiet, almost unremarkable, when you realize something unsettling. You are no longer waiting to be rescued. Not by love, not by success, not by recognition, not even by time. At first, this realization feels hollow, like the floor dropping out beneath a belief you didn't know you still carried. Because for a long time, hope looked like arrival. Like one day someone would see you fully. Like one day life would soften. Like one day things would finally make sense. But suffering dismantled that fantasy piece by piece. Not cruelly, precisely. It showed you that waiting was costing you more than acting ever could. That postponing your truth was a slower death than any rejection. That salvation outsourced is just another form of surrender. And somewhere along the way, without ceremony, you stood up inside yourself. This is when your presence changes. People may not know why they feel it, but they sense it. You no longer reach for validation the way you once did. You listen more than you speak, not out of fear, but discernment. You move with a weight that wasn't there before. Not heaviness, gravity. You no longer chase connection, you allow alignment. And the difference between those two reshapes everything. Some will drift away during this phase, not because you pushed them, but because they can no longer access you through old versions of yourself. They miss the you who over-explained, the you who adjusted, the you who carried emotional labor silently so others could remain comfortable. They will call this change distance. But distance is not what's happening. Boundaries are. Suffering taught you something most never learn. Not everyone who feels familiar is safe. Not everyone who stays is meant to grow with you. Not everyone who loves you knows how to honor you. And once you see that, you cannot unsee it. You stop negotiating with misalignment. You stop translating your soul into simpler language. You stop bleeding just to prove you're alive. There is a strange loneliness here. Not the aching loneliness of abandonment, but the quiet loneliness of clarity. You can be surrounded and still untouched, because now you recognize resonance, and resonance is rare. This is where many people try to drag you back. They'll remind you of who you used to be. They'll question your seriousness. They'll suggest you're changing too much, thinking too deeply, withdrawing too far. But what they're really responding to is the loss of access. You are no longer porous, and that frightens those who fed on your openness without responsibility. Here's the truth most won't say out loud. Your suffering trained you to stand alone without collapsing. That doesn't mean you're meant to be alone forever. It means you are no longer afraid of it. And once fear is gone, choice becomes possible. You don't bond out of need anymore. You bond out of recognition. You don't tolerate chaos for chemistry. You don't confuse intensity with intimacy. You don't confuse attention with devotion. Because pain educated you, and education changes taste. There is also something else happening now. You may feel it as restlessness, or impatience, or a subtle refusal to return to routines that once numbed you. That's because endurance has completed its job. Survival mode has an expiration date, and you're reaching it. The same strength that kept you alive now demands direction. Unchanneled resilience becomes frustration. Unexpressed truth becomes heaviness. Unused power becomes self-doubt. This is why you may feel unsettled even when things are fine. Your soul is no longer asking to survive. It's asking to move. This is the dangerous phase, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to dismantle what no longer fits. Old identities will crack here. Outdated loyalties will strain. Comfort will begin to feel like a cage, and you'll be tempted to shrink again, to return to what's familiar just to quiet the tension. But don't. That tension is alignment forming. You are not becoming harder, you are becoming truer, less flexible where it matters, more compassionate where it counts, more selective without becoming cold. This is refinement, not retreat. Part 4. When your growth becomes threatening. There is a point in your transformation where growth stops being invisible. Up until now, it lived quietly inside you. A reordering of priorities, a strengthening of spine, a softening that did not weaken. But then something shifts. People begin to react, not because you announced your change, not because you demanded anything, but because you stopped negotiating your worth. And that is when growth becomes threatening. Some will feel it as rejection, even though you never rejected them. Others will feel judged, even though you never judged. Your silence will be misread as arrogance. Your boundaries will be labeled cruelty. Your peace will be mistaken for distance. Because when you no longer perform your old role, those who benefited from it feel exposed. You see, many relationships are unconsciously built on imbalance. One carries, one consumes, one bends, one leans. And when the one who always bent finally stands straight, the entire structure destabilizes. Not because standing is wrong, but because the structure was. This is where grief enters quietly. Not the dramatic kind, the subtle kind. Grief for conversations that will never go as deep again. Grief for people you love who can only meet you where you used to be. Grief for versions of connection that required your self-erasure. You don't hate them. You simply cannot return. And this is where guilt tries to sneak in. It whispers, "Who do you think you are now? Why can't you just be easier? Why does everything have to change?" But guilt is just loyalty to an outdated self. And loyalty that costs you your becoming is not virtue. It's sabotage dressed as kindness. Your nervous system knows this now. It reacts faster than your mind. Tightness when something is wrong. Exhaustion when you overextend. Calm when you tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. You no longer need permission to leave rooms that drain you. Your body has already voted. Some people will attempt to pull you back using memory. They'll say, "You used to," as if who you were at your most unprotected should dictate who you're allowed to become. But memory is not authority. Experience is. Here's the quiet truth. Your growth doesn't threaten healthy people. It reveals unhealthy attachments. Those who love you without needing to own you will adjust. Those who relied on your silence will resist. You may notice something else now. Your tolerance for noise has dropped. Drama feels childish. Over-explaining feels humiliating. Arguments feel pointless. Not because you're superior, but because your energy is no longer infinite, and you've learned how expensive it is to waste. This phase can feel isolating, not because you're alone, but because you are between worlds, too evolved for your past, not yet surrounded by your future. This is the corridor, and corridors are always quiet. Do not rush to fill this space. Stillness is not emptiness, it is integration. Your mind is catching up to your soul. There will be moments when you wonder if you've become colder. But listen carefully. Coldness closes. Clarity simplifies. You still feel deeply. You just no longer bleed everywhere. This is when discernment replaces attachment. When love becomes cleaner. When presence becomes more powerful than performance. Part 5. The moment you stop reacting and start choosing. There is a subtle but irreversible moment in every transformation. It does not arrive with fireworks. It does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, almost disappointingly simple. You pause, and instead of reacting, you choose. Before this moment, life felt like something that happened to you. People spoke and you flinched. Circumstances shifted and you scrambled. Emotions rose and you drowned in them. You were always responding, always adjusting, always bracing. Not because you were weak, but because you were untrained in stillness. Reaction is instinct without direction. Choice is instinct guided by awareness. And awareness changes the geometry of your life. You begin to notice the space between stimulus and response. A breath, a beat, a moment where nothing moves, yet everything is decided. This space is where power lives. Not loud power, not dominating power, internal power, the kind that cannot be taken, only abandoned. At first, choosing feels uncomfortable. It feels slow. You wonder if you're being passive, but you're not passive. You're precise. You stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided not to understand. You stop defending boundaries that don't need justification. You stop answering every emotional knock at your door, not because you don't care, but because you finally do. Care without limits is self-erasure. You learn that the hard way. Choice begins to reshape your identity. You no longer say yes out of fear. You no longer stay out of guilt. You no longer chase clarity from those committed to confusion. And something strange happens. Your life becomes quieter, not empty, aligned. The chaos that once followed you loses interest. Drama requires participation. You stopped auditioning. This is when people start to say, "You've changed," and they're right. But what they mean is, You no longer let me access you the way I used to. Choice costs you illusions, but it gives you peace, and peace is addictive in the healthiest way. You begin to trust yourself again, not blindly, earnestly. You trust your timing, your instincts, your discomfort. You no longer rush decisions just to escape uncertainty. You sit with it, because you know uncertainty is not danger, it's information gathering. You also begin to recognize patterns instantly. What used to take years to understand now takes seconds to feel. Your body whispers before your mind catches up, and you listen. Here's something no one tells you. When you start choosing consciously, your standards rise automatically. Not because you demand more, but because you tolerate less. You notice how people speak to you. You notice how spaces feel. You notice how much effort something costs versus how much it gives back. And you adjust, without drama, without speeches, without needing to be seen. This is maturity without bitterness, strength without hardness, confidence without noise. But don't mistake this phase as final. This is not the destination, this is the threshold. Because once you begin choosing yourself consistently, life responds differently. Opportunities shift, connections recalibrate, paths open that could never appear while you were fragmented.